Spence member,
Mike Capel, member.
Morgan Dean, member.
John Racine, member.
Rich Rita, select board ex officio.
Catherine Brennan, alternate.
Rob Wilson, alternate.
And anyone zooming in that we can see?
Margaret Turner, alternate.
Okay, Margaret. I think I'm gonna seat Mr. Wilson. We need 7, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
We don't.
5, 6. Oh, and I'm gonna seat you also, because you haven't been,
Still haven't
secretary yet.
No, I
Yep.
don't think Rick has either.
Just for the record, Catherine Brennan and Rob Wilson would be seated today.
you have to be sworn in, don't you?
We're
Sworn
working
in,
on that.
And just Rick, you haven't been sworn in it either, right?
So Rick, also I'm working on that too, with Terry Waite. You probably will both be sworn in this month. Okay. Capital improvement plan.
Excuse me.
Who is the committee on this? Could you guys take the lead on this and start it out? Mr. Secretary?
What we did was examine all of the items. We put the item on the screen.
Yeah, this
Okay,
is
I got
the
it.
sheet that you should be using.
Yep.
Does anybody not have it?
What's the date on that?
You have one, Rick?
Doesn't say.
Doesn't have a date.
This one does not have a date.
Yeah. I have the one that was passed out at the meeting. I don't have a hard copy of the email document.
Steve, is the,
Yeah, I have the one from last meeting.
yeah, cause you always date the file.
Who needs a?
Is this the one we're using, the one that was passed out?
Like you had a 10-17.
The one that was passed out at the meeting is. what we
Yes.
use.
You know, FY 24
It's
capital
formatted
improvement,
differently.
you put the 10 dot.
Like the one that was emailed.
What with that, like,
That's why I said
same thing
The
with
one that
files.
was passed out is the one that.
Yeah, do you know what the date of the last one?
Just make sure.
I've got 11.
Yeah.
Period.
Everybody got one? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Just so we're all looking at this. Okay, yeah.
Same one.
we have copy. Margaret, are you okay with, you might have a copy with you?
And then this email from last Friday.
Okay,
So what happened
I've got the electronic copies that are in the emails.
okay, sounds great. All right, we're gonna let Mr. Secretary speak.
That was somebody else did it, but
Well, we can start with you and
yeah, fine.
Morgan can,
We listened to the proposals from each of the department heads. Each of the department heads explained what was significant and important to their department for the next fiscal year in the future, because the CIP lays out at least 5 years. But it goes off further, but trying to see further than 5 years is very difficult. Nevertheless, the priorities were, we listened to the proposals and assigned priorities, that is the 3 members of the planning board assigned a priority to each of the items that was considered important from each of the department heads. So that's what's listed on the shown on the spreadsheet. Many of them are accepted as high priority, which means that we would recommend those to the planning board for approval, to be passed on to the select board to discuss the financing of them and the proposing of these items as warrant articles at town meeting. And that's the summary statement.
okay.
I'll jump in, just add a couple of things.
Go ahead,
So,
Rob.
yeah, in that process, so we start working from Mark's amazing. Well, what are we going out? We're going out 5 years now on this, and we go into details. So, they're summed up into these categories. So, these are the things that, that are, kind of rolled up into that. The other thing too is on existing in that column, if you look at the spreadsheet. So the existing that means that it was represented in a previous year. And if it wasn't, it's something that's brand new onto the very detailed spreadsheet that Mark maintains and Steve now maintains. Sorry, Steve. Then there's correlation to the master plan, and I think that was a great addition that Steve put in this year. That's brand new as well. So, you know, you can go to the specific action item in the master plan, and if there's a correlation, do that. And I think that's powerful in terms of justification and selling these things, because that master plan has been accepted by the town. And then the requested amount, we're not putting the funding source on here just for ease of sake, because that gets into a very, very long, you know, meeting.
And
Anyways,
it's also not the responsibility of
Of
the
the
planning
planning
board,
board.
but that's the responsibility of the select board. Nevertheless, we did
Correct.
talk about it briefly. And there are options. And I don't see Amy here, but if she were here, she would tell us that it would be important to set up capital savings plans for the town.
She is gonna stop in a little bit, to talk, so if that's okay with everyone. Morgan, did you have, were you done, Rob?
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
No, that's something else.
You wanna have something to say, or? I know you do, Kathy. You have some notes you made in there that you want.
My comments, the only numbers difference was again, the vehicle administration went up from 35 to 40,000, which is not a big deal, but just for consistency's sake, what was emailed is different from what we were given. As far as just the formatting, that was the only number real different, so just,
Under public safety?
yeah, and just like things got changed around, tire changing moves into public works, so just so people know, it's just a little bit, the format's different, and then just that one number is different. I mean, I would defer to the committee on everything. My question is just, okay, so the tire changing equipment, which makes sense, because you're pulling a car to go do that, but then we're buying another administration vehicle, which is a medium priority, so if we're looking to cut anyway, I would, look at those two, because they would work. But,
Mhm.
so I just had, and would request, updates and dates, so we know that they're different, when stuff gets sent out. That was. Formats the
Just
same.
for clarity
Things
on
got
that
moved.
admin vehicle. That was a good catch. 40 represents chief's best case scenario, which would be a Dodge Durango in that capacity. He also got pricing for a Ford Ranger and some type of a utility van. So the Durango came in at the 40, the Ranger was 35, and that third option was in the 30 range.
This is for whom?
For public safety, a vehicle to be used for training when they have training down in Concord. If vehicles are tied up and the code enforcement officer needs to go and do an inspection, he would he'd take the admin vehicle to do the inspection.
Yeah, and I think one of the other points on that item specifically is that they have to take a vehicle out of use here. And there are a lot of training both for public safety and public works. That's usually in Concord, or somewhere with distance. And a small, very cheap vehicle with excellent gas mileage, and not putting more mileage on vehicles used for other purposes here. That was a point that was brought up on that as well.
Go
I
ahead.
hate to ask this question, but since we're supposedly environmentally friendly.
We're trying.
Well, no, the question that those
Yes,
vehicles that you just mentioned are gas vehicles, not EVs. EVs would be another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
If you can get them.
$10,000-$15,000.
Yeah,
Right.
They're in
Like
high
that.
demand.
I understand they're in high demand. Understand all that stuff. The question I'm asking is. Huh? You understand the question is, if we wish to encourage EV use in the valley, should we be encouraging that to be an EV vehicle? That's the only question I'm
That's
asking.
your discussion.
No, I understand. I apologize for looking at you, Mark. I shouldn't be. I'm looking at everyone here.
I
I
agree
think
with that.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
And if it's gonna be used for
Yeah.
like the code enforcement officer to drive, or that needs to drive around or whoever, like, can you get a Prius or, that kind of a car? I mean, I don't know what the prices are,
I'm not making
I
a
think that's a
thing,
great
and,
suggestion.
John Margaret
Well,
has a
Can I speak,
question.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Margaret.
I don't know, can you?
Yeah, I just like, if I can just say this first, Margaret, I think. We're approaching this in the wrong direction. Okay, we can talk about cars later, because we're talking about small amounts of money. What we have in front of us is a total of $3.2 million, I think, 3.3
Or more.
million. So why don't we dispose of the four? I think there are four major.
No,
items.
I'm just saying because that one came up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to redirect
That's
back
fine.
to,
No,
let's
I
talk
don't-
about the four
Yes.
big items,
I
the
did-
dredging, the, the roads, obviously, the dredging, the road,
Ambulance.
the fire engine and ambulance. And the importance of those four, and once we decide what we're gonna recommend to the select board, that gives us an idea of the magnitude of what we're looking at, and I'm sorry, I think Margaret wanted to talk.
Yeah, Margaret, go ahead.
Okay, I think Rich just took me off the table, but I did want to comment that having bought a car from Carvana, you can spend significantly less for either an electric vehicle, a used electric vehicle, or a PHEV. I have a PHEV, gets over 50 miles to the gallon, and it runs extremely well. So I'm just saying, if we're getting an administrative car so that we don't take our cruisers out of use, it's not necessarily that you have to go for a new one.
Thank you, Margaret. Good points, Rich. That was a good point.
Yeah,
What you brought up.
Yeah.
I don't think we
definitely
can
agreement.
justify it anyway.
Yeah.
There's so much money on the table. Discussing, spending much more money on a relatively insignificant item.
Right, that could
It's
be
not
another
justifiable.
time discussed, right. Yes, Kathy.
To Rich's point, so then do we just now, group agree that those four chunks we approve that, or we just open and then just kind of check those off and?
I think we need to go through them one by one and discuss them more. Is that what you
Yes.
were
Yeah,
saying?
no, I think that's.
If we discuss,
the
it a little-
record.
yeah, if we discuss it a little bit, at least the public can hear
Mhm.
what's going on.
And the idea was to bring what was discussed at the CIP to the planning board.
Yeah,
And that at the planning board has questions, it's the first step toward airing the entire CIP proposal. To see how valid it is in the minds of other people.
yeah,
So yeah, we need to discuss the big items.
Yeah, and it is the planning board approving what, is going to the select board. So we all have to kind of agree, not just the three of us.
That's
who
right.
sat through.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Chair, can I make another? Point?
Yes.
So, I would also just, let the rest of the planning board know that actually the select board has acted on two of the items already, the fire engine and the ambulance. Where- well, and the skids, is that on there somewhere?
Yeah.
Public Works.
Public
It is,
Works?
it's there.
Oh, all right.
Mhm.
Yep, okay, I see it now, the 70,000, I wasn't even, I'm sorry, the 36,000,
Mhm.
I wasn't, yeah, I was looking for something with another zero at the end of. But in any event, yes, and the skid steer, so those are already in process. In terms of purchasing, we have a contract on both, do we not, I know we have it on the. On the fire engine,
We have a deposit that's been made on the fire. engine
right,
That is contingent upon the town meeting approval
Right.
of this money.
right,
And then there is also an order that has been placed for the ambulance. They did not require
a deposit,
Deposit.
right,
And if we don't we have, no ties to the ambulance if the money is not appropriated this year.
I think,
The reason that we did that is there's about an 18 month to 24 month lead time on the fire engine and a 1 year lead time on the ambulance. So these vehicles are not arriving in 24. They're probably gonna be at 25 or 26. If we get the authorization, they'd probably be recommended as bond issues. And the money would not be borrowed until we actually have to make payment. For them.
and that was my other point on these four major items. They're all almost certainly going to be bond issues as far as the funding of them on. So the dredging, the ambulance, the fire engine, and the roads were all almost, well, I would say certain will be
Yep.
bonded for a funding source. So you need to just keep all of that in the back of your mind as we're going through.
And authorization is different than the borrower.
So
Right.
just to clarify,
Mhm.
when I'm looking at this sheet, and this sheet for that matter. What you're telling us is that the $725,000 engine number 2. That is down here as a 2024 project would be approved and as well as the ambulance. Would be approved in next March's town meeting, but the expenditure is a 2025 item, probably.
It's another, yes, it is probably a different year.
Right, I understand.
Expenditure. But on our books, in the town financials, it will show up as a twenty
Appropriated money,
twenty-four
appropriated money.
expense. Because the appropriation has been made. The offset to that expense
I-
is the bond,
I-
well, other people don't understand.
I'm sorry.
The offset to the appropriation is the authority to borrow that money. So that will be on the books from 2024 forward. When we actually borrow the money and we'll start making the payments. And remember, those debt service payments show up in each of the annual budgets. That will be at some other.
Rick,
Do we have to put additional money down as this process evolves? So 35 grand
What's
now.
the payment?
The fire engine, we owe another 5% in April 1st. So if it's
2024,
2024, so that,
35,000, 40,000.
yes.
So it
Well,
helps to make that.
we can get bond anticipation notes at extremely low rates.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to actually close on the bond until we need.
The
Right.
rest of the money.
Okay.
Ask one other question.
yes, Rick,
Do we sell our existing truck?
Yes,
And so
that'll be
Is there-
put towards the purchase price.
any idea what we're gonna get?
The vendors for the fire trucks, they help us list it with a third party, reseller. I don't expect, huge amounts of money for 25-year-old. The market for a 25-year-old engine is not really up there. If it's $20,000, approximately. The trade-in for the ambulance, was really low, I thought. And then I think we could probably, almost sell that outright ourselves for a lot better price.
But however we dispose of it, whatever amount we get will be put towards the new.
Absolutely targeted towards that, not something else.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Dave, how old is the ambulance now?
It's 9 years old, it'll be 10 years next year.
Wow.
Yeah, usually 10-year replacement
when
plan
they approved it.
Yeah,
pretty typical, but again, because of the delivery times. We may not see it till 25, so.
sure,
So, the current ambulance, we're in good shape. I don't have any issues for having to run it, past next year, but. Once you get past that 10-year mark, then
And if we don't if town meeting does not appropriate the money, we'll have to cancel the order. And then put it in again for the next year. There's always gonna be that lag time. We don't see on any of these vehicles that lag time going down in the near future. So it's, you know, whenever town meeting does approve these things, we're looking at this 1 to 2 year
So
timeframe.
historically, you could order a truck and
Yeah.
in 9 months take delivery of that truck.
Right.
That's not the case
No.
anymore.
Not
It's-
anymore.
They're pushing 3 years before you're seeing those. So that's why we're doing this ahead of time in anticipation of that lag time.
Mhm.
I was trying to still keep it on schedule, but, engine 2, I worry more about, you know, having to push that out. Knowing the lag time, that it is, we're on borrowed time with that truck.
Just for people who don't know what engine 2 is, could you quickly explain what engine 2 is?
Engine 2 is just our secondary, fire pumper. It's typically, used for water supply, a water supply truck. It's not our first due, so it's always the oldest truck that we have is a backup pumper. And so when that gets replaced, our current engine 1, that's our frontline unit, will move to be that secondary unit. And it'll be more or less our mutual aid truck, water supply truck. So they have different tools on it, you know, that's got the portable pump and that sort of thing, where we've only got one floatable pump and all the equipment to be able to draw if we get called to Campton or someplace that doesn't have hydrants. That's its role, basically.
Thank you.
It's also critical, given the lag time for replacements, to have a second
Yeah.
vehicle. Because if something happens to the first line vehicle, getting a replacement for that, if you have to, you're either buying a second-hand vehicle that can give you maintenance issues and everything else, or you're waiting 2 years for that. So it may seem redundant for a small town like us, but it's even more important than it has been in the past to have all vehicles up to the standard.
I agree.
Mhm.
So
Understood.
2 is
Yeah.
1, 1 is none.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Anybody else, Mike?
no, I think those two are an absolute given.
Yep. Agreed.
We have to move them line by line or in aggregate.
How do you feel, Rich?
Yeah, I think discuss whatever
Yeah,
whatever items, they have a list of them that's recommended by
Yeah.
the CIP committee, so it should go down the list.
Can I just ask one more question on the ambulance?
course.
I apologize, I figured this earlier, so I think last year we put in what, 40,000 for maintenance or something on the existing?
That'll be used towards the purchase.
Okay,
good question, Rich. Yeah, that's a good question.
And that's kind of a segue, just looking, there are 3 notes on your sheet, on this sheet, that show you existing balances in capital reserve accounts. They are aggregated on this list under municipal facilities, major equipment. However, those capital reserves are for specific purposes. So there is a public safety vehicle capital reserve. There's, when town meeting established those capital reserves, they were for specific purposes. So even though it says municipal facilities, we can't just use that on any building in town.
Right.
We have to use it for the purpose that it was
Right.
appropriated for.
Sure, okay.
That is different than the 3 proposed capital reserves that are on here for $100,000 each. those will be worded to be more general. So that we in fact can use it for any vehicle, or we can use it for any building. Or whatever, that's the proposal from staff. Okay, so, those are different things.
Mr. Chair, it seems that I think the board it has a consensus on the fire engine and on the ambulance. As something to recommend to the select board. I would take a look at the other two big items before we move to the smaller stuff, which would be the roads
And the dredging.
and the dredging, because those four account for 3.2 of the $4.2 million recommendation by the CIP committee.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question about the dredging. If we could,
Do you think, well, excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
yes, Bill,
Do you think it's a good idea to, now that we've discussed these two major vehicles? To just ask for a quick vote to say that the planning board recommends to propose these items. To the select board for financing. Is that accepted?
yeah. I think
Okay, so
Yeah.
I move that the planning board recommend the approval of the fire truck and the ambulance for further consideration of the planning board, of the select board.
I second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? We can just.
I would just amend it for the 2024
2024,
budget discussions and the town meeting.
okay, 2024 town meeting,
And authorization at town meeting.
I second that.
okay,
You'll second.
Okay, can you restate it for Alicia?
Thank you.
no,
Please.
all right, try again. I move that the planning board approve the recommendation to the select board of the ambulance and the fire truck for the 2024 town meeting. Satisfactory?
Yeah.
Seconded.
that.
Okay, all in favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Or you just
Aye.
do an aye? Okay,
Aye.
aye.
Okay,
Margaret.
Any no's? Margaret, you
Margaret?
good? Oh, she's not, she's an alternate anyway. so.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
so we got that much done.
All right, let's
Dredging.
move on with that.
We discussed dredging.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the dredging. That's a big, what year are you guys, talking about dredging? 2024?
We're looking for the authorization in 2024.
Yeah.
That is a project, number one, two things on it. The $700,000 is just a placeholder at this time. We've not received the final report from the engineer yet with an updated cost estimate. So the $700,000 may change. As far as when the project is done, we don't know the actual year. We want to coordinate it with the abutting landowners, specifically Terrell, and any projects that they are doing around the pond. The intent is to have as little disruption as we can. So we would do the actual work while they were doing projects around the pond area. Because there's no sense in us going in and disrupting everything for an entire summer and then have them the very next year come in and do a project that disrupts the same thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be coordinated, but we need the authorization from town meeting. So that if they do present a project, which you guys are gonna be the first to know, then we have the ability to go and do the dredging. Because we might not be able to wait until the next town meeting to get the appropriation done.
So this is the same thing that you were saying before, a 700 and a
Yeah.
balancing 700.
That's correct. And authorizations are good for up to 3 years. We have 3 years to spend 80% of them. So,
And this may be the last time we have to dredge. Is that correct?
well, we are hopeful that the remediation project gets approved by the Forest Service.
Yeah.
And we're hopeful that it will work, but I can't definitively say this is the last time. we'll ever-
We're hoping.
But it must be
Well-
done in the near future, is what we're
It
saying.
was
Well-
last dredged, what, 24,
2009,
2009,
the summer of 2009.
so it's 15, well, it'll be
It'll
15,
be
16
15
years,
Yeah.
16 years.
And, Tropical Storm Irene changed everything. The dredging that we did was supposed to be good for 20 or 30 years, but there is a lot more sediment that comes down Snow's Brook and into the pond now than we've ever had, so it really comes down to, do you want a pond?
Right.
And,
Wait, do you want Campton Pond or Corcoran's? Pond?
well, that's true.
Well, Campton Pond isn't a problem.
Correct, but that's what it would look like if we didn't dredge.
Right. So I move that we accept the recommendation for the $700,000 of dredging for Corcoran's Pond to be discussed at the 2024 town meeting.
Second,
Before we vote on it, any further discussion on that?
So, quick question.
Rick?
Did we notice a correlation between the getting rid of the ducks and the health of the pond, the water quality?
The bacteria levels went down eventually in the pond. We still don't know that it was the
Related,
ducks.
less rain or whatever?
There was an inordinate amount of rain, I think we'll just continue to monitor it. It's monitored all summer long, every year.
So that we have some sort of scientific basis of like, if we dredge this thing, the health of the water is better.
Certainly the amount of water in there helps it because it stays colder longer.
Okay.
And, definitely warming up causes bacteria issues. So yes, in 2009 and 10, we had very low levels of bacteria. It was 20 feet plus deep.
Thanks.
Karen, is 20 feet enough for survival of fish?
We did have fish wintering over. We would stock it in the spring, prior to Memorial Day. But Ray Kucharski did note that there were native fish in there in 2010, 2011. After we had done the dredging, because we purposely made deep pools and set it up so that the fish could winter in the pond.
But it's,
Even with the drawdown.
I was gonna say, it's problematic because, the mountain draws from the pond is that pump house right next to it for snowmaking. I don't.
Yeah.
Chief, what's your view? I don't think we've had fish
Yeah,
in there
and-
making it the last few years.
We had a number of years where we had high water events that we lost the flashboards to. And so those high water events seem to clean us out of fish. But, and I can only say that because of the fishing derby, when kids start catching bigger fish, we know that they've wintered over and they've survived because it was much larger fish than what we put in. So.
Kirby from 3 years.
That's
ago.
right. That's right. And we see it and we actually keep that data. And it's kind of interesting to see, we keep track of the years that we lose the flashboards versus the ones that don't, and the subsequent years that they don't, the fish do get bigger. So.
Good. I would,
But making it deeper will definitely help.
Yeah.
Yes.
and the other part of this, as part of the motion, I think for the record, we have to note that we're still waiting for an engineering report on what options we have for dredging, and that's going to impact, obviously, the overall cost of it. So we're still waiting for that report from the engineering firm that we hired.
Right, this is in effect, a discussion and placeholder.
Yeah, But I mean, I think it gives us an idea of what the amount we're looking at,
Yeah,
a lot.
it's our best guess at the moment.
It's a.
The number is based on the $575,000 that we spent in 2009.
Right.
With an
Right.
inflator,
I understand.
and so,
Okay.
but who knows if the inflator was enough.
I have a quick question, Mark. The town owns the pond, is that correct?
Correct.
And is there a high water part of the pond where the town owns up to?
No, there's land, a small piece of land all the way around the pond. Town.
Doesn't the town own the whole beach?
And and we own the beach and the path up to Packard's Field. And a piece of land behind the beach.
Right.
So-
Is fine.
So do we charge the mountain for drawing water out of there, or is that just?
No, it was an existing easement at the time that we purchased the pond.
Okay,
Well, we were gifted. the pond,
Gifted the pond.
gifted. All right,
But that was an easement, water rights were.
Right.
Given to the easement.
Bill, you had a question?
Not anymore.
Rick?
I think you might have said this, but so I apologize in advance, but would doing the remediation efforts in conjunction with the Forest Service be a good first step to prevent additional sediment from getting in there before we go?
Oh, we definitely need to do that, or it's just gonna continue to.
It'll happen again.
So I think doing that ahead of time, if it's possible, I'm not even sure if it's possible to do that.
We have a plan, it's been presented to the Forest Service, we have funding. And if the Forest Service will approve the plan, we're ready to move forward on that
Okay.
this coming summer.
We've been in touch
And
with Rick Vanderpool also, who's involved in that, and it's slow, it's moving really slow.
It's national forest.
yeah, it's you're at their mercy.
You really are.
Forest Service
You
Department.
can't, you can't,
They have that money hanging out there too.
um,
We have that money hanging out there too,
well,
up to a
the
certain
issue
point.
with the money.
Yeah,
Is that the town appropriation is going to lapse
Yes,
at the
right.
end of 24. So we have told the Forest Service that.
They don't
So
care.
as long as we can get it under contract by the end of next year,
They don't care.
then, but yeah, the Forest Service.
Forest Service.
It's been,
What's it?
2-3 years now, we've been on
3
it.
years.
3
Coming
years,
up.
24 will.
3 years.
yeah.
Is this the remediation going up Snow's Brook?
Up-
where you build-
Upstream, yeah, from the pond upstream. Into the hills.
You're going up to 2 miles or plus,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
We walked through all the way up and through there, it's quite a project. It
I think
will-
the frustrating thing is that the Forest Service seems to be in favor of it, we just can't get the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
To move along.
It's an approval. Yeah,
Yeah.
the forest engineer, the folks here in New Hampshire are for it. But it needs approval of the regional office. If not, the Washington DC office. And that takes time. We're continuing to push it.
County.
There's a motion on the floor.
There is. My question is, any other further discussion? All those in favor for this motion?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on. To the next big one. Which was.
Roads.
Roads.
So the long stripes are being painted right now. Hopefully.
That would be awesome.
I don't see Megan, so hopefully they're being connected. So, we're done for, the winter. They will come back in the spring and they will do a top coat from Village Road around to Village Road. So what's there is just the base coat. But, basically everything is done per the contract. We have approximately $1 million to $1.2 million left in prior authorized bond issues. We're borrowing the last of that money in January. And the select board has a meeting next week to decide what the next set of roads will be that we'll do. But we do have an amount of money available. This amount in the request is again for an authorization, not for actual borrowing, probably in 24, because our existing money will cover the roads that we're considering right now. That was on the road. There was a road sheet that was included with your packet that showed you the years out. But this money, we want to be able to do engineering for the 2025 and beyond roads. And we didn't want to put roads under contract in 24 and run out of money for engineering. So we will borrow this as we need to, moving forward as we actually rebuild the roads. So, any questions regarding?
I would just make one observation is that, again, we have an engineering report that we're waiting on. To have a full discussion on the roads, and hopefully we'll have it.
Is the
soon.
sewer.
The water
line-
sewer lines going up
Water sewer
Snow's
lines
Mountain,
up
but that
Snow's Mountain.
impacts Boulder Path and the whole schedule of the road, so we're hoping to have that soon.
Amy, you had your hand up?
I'm asking about there is a capital reserve for that, and you're saying that's not enough to cover.
We don't have it.
Well, we have a proposed capital reserve project for this year. So the decision will be, do we borrow the whole $1.5 million? Do we borrow something less? You know, and again, it's not the actual borrowing, it is the authorization. So that if we have a project amount that comes in, then we have the ability to sign a contract with a firm to do that.
And there's lead times on those too.
And there are lead times
Significant.
on those. Yeah.
I guess my question is why wasn't the capital reserve built up sooner, so you would have had cash available to pay for this?
Because we didn't do it, Amy. I can't give you that's a select board question. I mean, you could bring it to the select board, but we just didn't do it in the past. That's the short answer. We've had this discussion.
In the future, are you going to start increasing savings this year?
Well, I think there's a proposal by the CIP committee to create a capital reserve fund for roads for $100,000 this year to get the authorization for that. I'd be the first to admit that's a drop in the bucket, 100,000 out of 1.6 million that we're faced with. But we're at the starting process. If we're going to create capital reserves, we're at the starting process of doing that. If people want to put more money away to cover the roads, that's something we'll discuss at the select board and at our public hearings on the budget and at town meeting.
Yeah, but by then it's too late, right? And you will put out a proposal you put out the proposal to borrow. You don't ask people if they want to save money in advance. So
Well,
you know where I'm going with that.
I do. We've had this discussion, friendly discussion before. But I mean, we do have public hearings, all our budget discussions. It's all out there. We start those discussions in December. Well, yeah, in December and January, we have a public hearing. So it shouldn't be the first time that an educated voter, educators carrying a lot of weight here, that an educated voter hears about our plans that they could have contributed to the decision-making process. The town meeting isn't the first time.
When
But-
when will the select board be reviewing the new CIP report and adding the part at the bottom that says how much they plan to save for Or when is that gonna
The
happen?
week of
'Cause
December.
I don't wanna wait until it's too
The
late.
week of
No, at
December
first.
18th,
Yeah, well,
we will have a meeting.
yeah, we discussed it, I think that the last couple meetings, when we were gonna start our discussions.
Departmental
Departmental
budgets
is
are the first week
Week
of
of
December.
December,
and then-
preliminary discussions, and then the week of the 18th, probably be our final,
Probably be the CIP discussion.
we'll get into the CIP.
I have a question.
And I don't
Hold-
know
hold
what
on one
day
minute.
that week, but it will be probably during that week.
So it's in the usual time frame,
It's in the, yes.
typical time frame, I should say.
Any further, Amy?
I do have more to say, I just don't know if I wanna waste everybody's time here, I just wanna get clear.
How about-
I wanna know as soon as possible. Because the select board has already heard from the public when I presented, and they all agreed with me at 11:30 at night at the last annual meeting. I wanna know if your philosophy in your minds has changed at all. Are you planning to start bringing warrant articles to the people, asking to build capital reserves to save more money, like all other towns do, or not?
That would be a full
That's
select
the
board
select
decision.
board decision.
I can't speak for the full select board, but that'll be part of our discussions in December.
So so in December, you decide not to, then what do I do? Do I still have time to?
Yes, you have time to
Yeah.
petition a warrant article
Right.
after the December.
So you would want me, a resident, to create a warrant article requesting that we save money so as not to borrow for everything and and expose the town to interest.
If that's,
Yeah,
That's
if
the
that's what,
decision of. the
Okay.
select
if you're not happy with the decision of the
That would
of
be
the select
bad.
board, right?
I hope I don't have to go there. And I
Mark?
hope somebody in the room will back me.
I'm wondering if the CIP would talk with Amy about that a little later.
I think Mark-
I've talked to everybody, most of the
good.
people on the CIP about this.
Okay.
And again, my concern here is that if we do not have the warrant, if we do not give the voters the option to save money now for future items, when it comes time to buy those items, we have to borrow, no matter what the rate is. I'm not saying not to borrow. I'm saying that that the voters should have that option. You shouldn't be making that decision for them in advance by not asking them to save the money. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Select board issue.
Margaret, you have something?
Yeah, the first thing I had is that I had a question about the controversial Snows Mountain Road project. Because I see where it is right now in the road projects, and it's out beyond the time when the wastewater treatment facility is finished. So I think we're gonna have 3 or 4 years of arguments from the Snows Mountain Road people about their paying for the new sewage treatment plant when they're not on it. So I wondered whether that should be put in earlier. And my second comment, just listening to Amy right now, as I understand it, the CIP for the first time has $300,000 in proposed reserves, capital reserves, for future projects unspecified. And Mark, do you need a petition warrant article if you, as a resident, want to propose a different amount at town meeting?
No, those are act items. They are, so anybody can amend those
Right.
up or down.
That's
I will check with legal counsel to see if there's a percentage limit. But I do not believe that there is, so that could be amended like any other warrant article that involves cash. So
Yeah,
It can
and
be any-
I guess I did hear you mention that capital reserve earlier. Can you explain to me what you're talking about?
Let me explain it very
Thank
simply.
you.
Let me explain it. Let's suppose that this goes forward as stated with on $300,000, whatever. Amy, you or I or any other town resident can get up and say, I believe that we should increase that $100,000 in this line item to $500,000. And I do that based upon the following items.
Yeah, you're skipping what my question is. Are you saying that right now you are proposing creating a warrant article to create a
No.
fund? Okay,
The CIP committee is proposing to the planning board that the select board create
Right.
3 capital reserve funds for specified purposes. That's the other thing. It has to be, for the amendment, it has to be amending the warrant article, if there were one, on those specific purposes.
Yes.
You need a petition.
and they'll be for specific items that are in the CIP.
Well, it's listed
Each
here.
one of them.
Well, it's not so much for specific items this
That's
time.
specific
There
areas.
Could be recommending $100,000 for major equipment repairs. So to help facilitate the purchasing of fire trucks or police vehicles down the road, $100,000 for major infrastructure, new town buildings, repairs to town buildings, $100,000 for roads, and $25,000 for town revaluations that has to happen every 5 years.
And
That's-
those
Sounds
are
great.
purposes that are set by statute. So we can't create a capital reserve for just
Unspecified.
willy-nilly,
Right,
whatever
it's not.
we want. We have to stay within the statute. So those are 4 things that are covered by statute.
Right.
That we can have capital reserves.
As stated on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
And should at town meeting,
And
if I want to get up and say, I want to increase, I want to double all of those, I
Or
can
have
do that,
it.
or have it, or disappear it.
Right.
I can do all of those things at town.
For those purposes, otherwise you
At
have to have a
those-
petition
the-
warrant for something
Those
else.
specific items, one by one.
That's correct.
That is my understanding.
If they're on the town.
Assuming they're on the warrant.
Yeah.
I, as a resident, can get up and motion for those to be increased, decreased, or eliminated. However, I or Amy or Bill or John or whomever see fit and explain why. Yes,
The process.
go ahead.
Amy? Are you good?
Glad to see that the CIP is doing that.
Okay,
In fact, that's a great idea. I don't know why I hadn't heard about it before today.
good. Bill?
There's a good deal more to be said about this. But that's not the agenda of the CIP meeting, it's not the agenda of the planning board meeting.
I know that.
Okay, but
I know that.
there's a great deal to be said about the nature of Waterville Valley and the creating of these reserves by means of taxes. That's the only other way to raise money. So
I agree, and I'm trying.
you're gonna have to
I'm
say
trying-
to the taxpayers that because somebody wants, or a group of people, whoever it is, wants a capital reserve, you're gonna have to pay more taxes.
No, oh, wait a minute.
That's how
That's not-
that's how you're gonna raise the money.
Let's save that.
Wait,
Hold it. That's not this discussion.
That's why I said
You
it.
need to take.
Mike's, let's
Everyone
stop
stop.
this discussion.
Everyone stop.
Okay, that's where we would go if this meeting were to divert into this discussion. We can't go there.
I'm just asking, when do I have that discussion? When should I bring that discussion?
With the select board, Amy.
Again?
The week of the 18th.
If you, we've had a discussion, if you want to come, but whether or not we're going to approve, first of all, the planning board has to approve. Bringing these recommendations to the select board to create these capital reserve accounts, or funds. And these amounts, and then the select board. Will discuss it and decide whether to bring them forward into the budget process. For a town meeting in 2024, so that will be the period. When we talked about this, I think it was in April or May. We said, the select board said this is exactly what we were going to do. Have this discussion in our 2024 budget meetings. in December of 2024, 2023, excuse me.
The only thing I want to be very clear about is that everybody understands that everything is paid for via taxes. It's paid for by taxes, whether you save for it or whether you borrow for it. Duh. The problem is if you borrow for it after the fact, the taxes will be higher because you're paying for interest expense. If you save money, you don't pay interest expense. Simple. Thank you.
And maybe the CIP group could talk with Amy at some point to,
Right,
Have
my
to
point
take
was not this meeting.
right, that's what I'm saying, maybe another time you could talk it over with Amy, she's been on the CIP before, the group?
I chair the trustees of the trust funds. I've already said that I don't want to stay on that, but I have been doing that for 5 years.
Okay,
I
thank you.
did present at the annual meeting, and anybody who wants to talk to me, please review my presentation before coming to me. Thank you.
And so everybody knows, I think it's important that we hear Amy, what she just said. I encouraged her to come today. This is a lot of money we're all spending and everyone in this room is hearing it, but people out there need to hear it. So
Right, and I'm
let's
just trying
not
to
think
figure
it's
out how-
just this room, okay? Okay, so the road issue is on the on the discussion right now.
Yeah.
Margaret
that's
had a pertinent question to that. Could you restate your question, Margaret?
Yeah, basically my question is that when I look at the Snows Mountain Road, I think it's listed as being in 2029 on the suggested plan. And as you know, that's a very controversial thing because it's the only place in town that doesn't have town sewer service. They're all on septic tanks and they would like sewer service. And if our plant is finished in 25, 26, 27, we're going to have 5 years of listening to those folks complain about the fact that they're being taxed for the new plant and they have no access to the new plant.
Mark,
The road, the fact that it's in 2029 is because we don't have the engineer report yet. It is a placeholder. It is, once we get the engineer cost estimate on the installation of the sewer line and the repair of the water line on Snows Mountain, and we determine how it will affect other roads like Boulder Path Road, etc. We will make modifications to the listing where it falls on the road repair plan. But again, we can't, we could have put it in 24. It wouldn't have really made any difference what year it was under, because we don't know yet what's gonna happen with snows. So we will move it, Margaret, if it's appropriate.
Okay,
I mean, I think that the hope is that we have an engineering report that we can present to town meeting in 2024, and they can decide at town meeting whether they want to move, what option they want to move forward with regard to Snows Mountain Road. Water line only or water and sewer, and that will drive the amount and where we put it on the schedule.
So, yeah.
We'll make that decision in the spring of next year. I'm sorry, Rick.
That's okay. I think it's a question to ask later.
any further discussion on the road issues? Do we want to vote on this?
Yeah, there's still a motion on the floor.
Can we repeat the motion?
Oh, my goodness.
There's no motion.
made a
for the-
I don't think we did. I think we already voted on the,
You voted on
That's for
the-
Brendan.
Done a
You
thousand,
voted on it,
yeah,
yeah, the other, it was
so
the
now
other.
there's no motion on it.
no motion, good.
So we could make a motion on this if we're ready to do that.
Does this motion,
Has to do with-
are we including the roads, capital fund request as part of this motion? I think that should be
I think it should be part of it.
stated specifically, if that's what we're
Yes.
doing.
Making motion more
Yeah,
complicated.
everybody's.
Yeah, well,
There we go.
Just specify what's on the sheet,
Yes,
because those are, there's
but-
different fund, potentially different funding.
I move that the planning board approve the CIP road construction project stated at 1.5 million plus a capital reserve proposal. And what's the amount? 300,000? 100,000, capital reserve proposal of 100,000 for future road construction to be proposed to be forwarded to the select board for consideration of the 2024 town meeting.
I would amend that to include 25,000 for the guide rails. That's the third item in the.
Yeah, I approve that, I agree.
Okay,
that's good.
including 25,000 for the guardrail project.
I second that.
Alicia, you got that okay?
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Very grateful for recordings. All right, next big item.
was that the,
That was the last.
that was the last one, wasn't it?
That was 3.2 million.
Total of the three,
Up
3.2,
4.
4? Did you say
Okay.
4?
It's 4.2.
And we have the remaining
Did we do that? We had a motion on it?
public safety items.
We give you Parks and
Yeah,
Recreation.
Rick will be quick.
Okay,
Here's the separate email.
Yeah, we can do parks.
Parks and Rec is the band, that's right.
Brooke is here to answer any questions you might have.
Why is that medium instead of high?
That's a question.
I know, I'm trying to remember.
Committee member.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just,
I got outvoted on that,
We have a,
2-1.
well, that's not an answer, but yes.
So it comes down to, and you guys jump in, is that the use of buying, a new larger vehicle, because the old one that's been being used, the little bus is that's what needs to be replaced. Now you could go out and buy that, or because so many of the trips that the rec department sponsors is 15 or under, it's actually more economical both to operate and to buy for the 15 passenger vehicle.
But there's another issue,
What's that?
What?
and I'm looking at Brooke. My understanding of that van is that although it is a rec van, it is on occasion also used by the school. For example, to take the kids, and I've done several times with the kids, to take them to robotics competitions or whatever. Is that? true?
But
Is that true?
we still have the other new bus for larger than the 15, but the majority.
So we're also 15.
Yeah, 15.
Plus it's 15.
Right.
as well.
This is
Yeah,
for an
it's 15.
additional 15.
Right.
Oh, okay.
It really need a. It is a needed vehicle.
Kathy. Just a minute.
Or we can talk so was there always two vans, like 5-10 years ago, were there always two rec vans?
When
Like,
we
couldn't give us a
purchased
history.
the current van that we have, or bus we have is a 2019. And when we purchased that, we had an existing bus, the one that we just retired, which was in 2005. We were able to keep running that older bus for now several years, actually, since that, and our program has since grown. So now we have had two buses for 4 years.
But the 2005 have to be taken out of service because it was not safe. And this vehicle, a van, not a bus, would replace the old bus,
It would have the same capacity.
same capacity.
But it would be about $30,000 less to purchase.
Bill, go ahead.
The reason that it's marked medium is that there's an alternative to purchasing a new bus. And that is to rent the van for the occasions that it was needed. So, the van purchase is estimated at 65,000. The van rental for the 2 months of June and August, when most of these trips are conducted, would be $10,250. That's one season of one rental. So I haven't, this paper doesn't tell me exactly what the mathematical structure, what the answer would be, but it seems that if you were to rent this bus, it wouldn't take long to accumulate rental expense equal to the purchase price.
And that's only for 2 months, let alone the other times of the year. that-
During the winter or any other
Right.
times that the bus or that a van would be needed.
And then
That's the 1-day quote of $875 for those outside of the 2 months, right?
Right.
And,
Well, that's
and not to
fine.
interrupt you, Bill, but just to build on what you're saying. So then it's not only the 875 for the times, oh, we need another bus, it's also, you know, another set of administrative overhead for the rec department. And, you know, what lead time do you need, maybe long before you actually know the number that you
Right.
have on. I think it's just logistically a nightmare for the rec department to
And
go.
at the same
to
time,
either of those.
you pay $875 and you're not sure what bus you're going to receive.
And that's why I voted high.
And my.
I think it's important.
Yes, Captain, we know you were right. So
I'm not saying that.
let's give us a break.
I just think it's important.
Mike is correct, it's also the school, it's not just used for the.
Right.
Yeah, field
that-
trips for the school, camp field trips, teen outings, hikes, snowshoe and biking trips, and adult day trips.
Right, so it's apparent that the van has multiple use.
Right.
Everybody, the school and the rec department can use it and it will be used all year round. And if we do the arithmetic, it's not difficult to see how renting would accumulate expense equal to greater than the purchase price.
Between 4 and 5 years.
Or less, depending upon how much
Maybe.
the school.
Then how much
Depending
it's
on the
used,
school.
that's right.
And but Mike, like, are you okay with the van approach? Cause you like the bus?
Oh, no, I'm not saying I like.
You know,
the
if
bus.
it's cheaper and it's.
My,
you know,
my
cheaper to
question, my
operate as well.
question with the van, as someone that is sat in the bus, all right? So for example, when the kids take robotics trips, for example, and I don't know if you've ever been involved, the kids, when they take robotics trips or they're going somewhere else, take significant amounts of stuff with them, all right? Will there be sufficient room in a van as opposed, I would think there'd be more actually.
Well,
But-
that's a good question, and I should look further into that.
I'm
I
sorry,
don't think that they have the above luggage rack space that we have in the new bus. The bus that we currently have has above
Above
luggage
ground.
rack. And there's a significant amount at the back of the bus. So I don't believe the van will have quite as much room, but there will be, but we would have a little bit of, you know, diversity there, some choices based depending on whatever the.
Okay.
the
in other words,
mission-
that's something that we leave in your capable hands.
Yeah, thank you.
Rick,
I'm just thinking, you might be able to tow that trailer too with.
Right, we would definitely want to get the trailer hitch package on
Yeah.
the van because, because that,
So,
we have this whole
okay.
trailer that could take,
Right.
you know. by
Bill?
another-
And these, some that I've seen, some of these vans have roof capacity. That is, you can put, yeah. You go on the roof first.
We do have the trailer, which I think might be a bit.
The trailer gets the job done.
All right, so at any rate, I go back to my question. Which is. I don't understand why, knowing what I know, that this is a medium, not a high.
It's about to be proposed that
Mm-hmm.
we purchase the van.
So it's moving to high.
Well, regardless of its priority listing.
Okay,
As
that's
long
fine.
as it's proposed that the
That's-
planning board approves, so
So you make
I
the vote.
move that the that the planning board recommend the purchase of a van. And that this recommendation is forwarded to the select board for financing with regard to the 2024 town meeting.
I
Second,
Jim.
He has priority.
Okay,
Okay, good, yep.
Alicia, could I add one little thing to that?
Yeah.
Put 15 passenger van. Rather than just a van.
Okay,
Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Anyone not in favor? Okay, let's move on. Pat. You good? Thank you, Brooke, for coming by.
Oh, yeah.
thanks, Brooke.
Happy day.
Hey, what's your other?
Yes. We
Yeah.
talked about public safety.
Your admin vehicle,
Yeah.
protective gear.
Cursor and the vehicle.
Yeah, and these are givens.
We might go through the same discussion with regard to the administration vehicle, to whether
Down here.
a calculation has been made to determine that it's more economical to have an administration vehicle than it is to take other vehicles out or to rent a vehicle.
That's a more difficult thing than Brooks' issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I've put a proposal together for that vehicle and any specifics of what we envision that vehicle. Looking like more role that vehicle plays for us. So it's an administrative vehicle, so it's gonna serve various critical functions within the department. Building inspection, code enforcement, training, and as a supervisory vehicle, and at worst case scenario, a backup for our patrol. Right now, our current fleet lacks a dedicated vehicle for building inspection, code enforcement. And having an administrative vehicle that's already equipped with our tools, whether it's step ladders, tapes, that sort of thing. We don't have that. What we're looking at is with the increase of construction projects in town. On any given day has led to times that inspections, police activities, and our outside trainings occurring. We don't have any vehicles left. They're either out of town, they're already doing other functions, and there have been times where I'm showing up for building inspections, either in an ambulance, a Mahindra, or a fire truck. Just because there's no other way to get there. This vehicle would be used to go to, we're being asked to do more training. The individual officers on the police side, training is increased up to 16 hours. Next year's going to be 24. We're not responsible to do all that training here. There's some opportunities, at the police academy and things. If we have this vehicle, that would be the vehicle that they take out of town. We don't have to take an emergency vehicle out of town for that function. As admin, whether it's going to get mail, whether the maintenance guy needs to go get parts in Plymouth or wherever, they can use that vehicle. What I'm proposing is to keep our fleet consistent. So I would request another Dodge Durango. Would not be marked, would not be a police vehicle. But in the case that we have one of those vehicles goes to one, we only have 2 cruisers. If one of those cruisers gets in an accident or is down for any extended maintenance, within a few weeks, we could have it lettered, put lights on it, and it's back in the fleet. Right now, it's 10 months to order if we were to order another vehicle. So if we have an accident with one, we're now down to one police car. With our coverage on the weekends, we have typically 2 patrol officers now, with one coming out of the academy, graduating today. Once they're on their own, we'll have 2 officers, plus we have a floating supervisor, first line supervisor. That vehicle could be the supervisor's vehicle, where the other 2 patrol officers are doing their available to do their thing. And doesn't,
Mike?
let's make this simple. I think based upon everything that Dave just said, there's no question that this is needed and should be moved over to high. There's no question, anytime I see protective gear for these guys, they absolutely deserve everything that we can give them. Same thing is true. I know what a compressor pack is, and there's no question at all that should be available. I understand the rotation of the police cruisers that have to be done. So basically, if you will allow me, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the police cruiser admin vehicle, protective gear and compressive air packs be moved to the select board to be considered at annual meeting.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Everyone in discussion, anyone okay with that?
I'm not sure if I heard about the other police crew, because there's another police cruiser on there. Did you mention that?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yeah, the other police cruiser is replacing the 2018 cruiser that we currently have. So we replace, each cruiser is in a pretty much a 6-year rotation right now. So that would replace it. The admin vehicle is considered a 10-year vehicle. So that's not hard because it's not doing patrol duty.
So you couldn't use that, I think that cruiser, it said in the detail, that the thing had lots of maintenance issues.
Yeah, we're chasing some, manifold leaks and that sort of thing with the current car.
But you couldn't use that, or you wouldn't want to use that as your admin vehicle / backup to the other.
We certainly could entertain that, but I think then you're starting to chase maintenance.
Cost more.
Yeah, chase maintenance problems. If we go with whatever the current vehicles, our maintenance guys familiar with the Dodge, they're all the same. That way, if any repairs, oil changes, filters, that sort of thing, it's all the same. For them.
Any other comments?
And just so you know, the compressor, we're going to be putting forward with the AFG grant. So we were unsuccessful for our air packs the last 2 years to get those replaced. So what I've done is proposed to take them out. Those will be grant. What we've been doing is using the grant match money to buy 4 air packs a year. So we outfitted engine 1 last year. We're hoping to use that money for air packs to outfit tower 1. And then I put, if you see the CIP 40,000 next year and the following year to get the remainder of the air packs. The compressor will be an AFG grant ask on our part, and hopefully we'll be more successful with a compressor than we are with air packs.
And currently you're going down to Canton to fill them, correct?
Correct. So we have our current compressor is a 2005. There's a sensor that went on it and they don't repair it anymore. They don't have the parts. So right now we're filling our bottles out of town.
Not good.
Another reason for the admin vehicle.
Yeah.
I have I'm not saying words.
Okay, any other further discussion on this issue? We got a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. And Alicia, you okay with the motion?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Okay, so that's done. Public safety.
Thank you.
What, Mr. Chairman, one
Thank
question,
you.
Dave, how much more demand for police services, patrol, etc., has occurred in, say, the last 2 years?
We've seen an increase in the last 2 years. I can't give you that specific number, but I think last year was around over 1,000 calls for service through Grafton County, and I'm sure we're at least on pace to meet that again this year. So
Part of this is the load that's been placed on personnel and vehicles.
yeah, it's not only just the police call. we've done over 200 inspections this year. It's, you know, we're up to 200 inspections and, you know, sometimes multiple a day, you know, that you just need a vehicle, but if one guy's out of town in training, the on-duty officer or the chief has the duty cruiser and somebody's got the pickup.
You walk.
You can always come to our house, we'll give you coffee.
No, and we've had to take personal vehicles. I mean, it's just, you just.
Okay.
Chief, while you're still here, I'd like to move on to the Public Safety Center for the fire bay floors and the windows.
Yep.
Everyone okay with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, they can make a motion.
What's the fire bay floor? Can you help us out with?
So there's, each bay has a floor drain. And what we have discovered is that the pipes for those floor drains are broken. And so any of the water that is now going down through there is infiltrating underneath those pipes. And my fear is that it's creating, washing away the sand and soil that's underneath, that's supporting that floor with the water. And so I would want, this money would be used to get a company in here to look at those drains and figure out a repair. I know they do some sort of sleeve, you know, they can do some injection molded sleeving where we can get those lines repaired without having to dig up the floor. But my fear is we drive very heavy trucks on top of them. And if we just continue to let this go, or just want to prevent a catastrophic problem from happening. We can get these fixed.
Got it, good.
Wasn't there another problem with, like in the winter? Isn't there some buildup?
No, we addressed that with paving.
Yeah.
This year.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
far, so good. We'll see. During the spring.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, the tower, the tolerances of pulling the tower out are very close. We have to make sure that snow and ice doesn't build up. And so a lot of the new pavement will have.
So we should just move to approve the,
Want to make a motion, Mike?
I'm moving. that we approve
What about the windows?
Yeah,
Fire-
that's the window.
Well,
Well, it's all one building.
It is.
yeah,
It's the windows and the kitchen. So it's all part of the same building.
Right, so I was gonna approve the
Oh,
fire.
is that the kitchen remodel?
That's
No.
that kitchen behind.
Oh, here,
that.
okay.
Right, I was gonna just
There was
approve
another.
the,
let's just stick with the drainage and the windows.
that's what I was
The
gonna
other
do.
one's in the public
I was
works.
gonna
Yeah,
move,
right.
we approve the fire bay floor drainage and the window replacement
It's not on there.
in
It's
the public
it's
safety
on the
center.
detail.
Okay, same routine as proposed to
As we move
forward.
we
into-
move forward to the select board to be discussed at town meeting.
Second.
Alicia, you got that okay?
Yep.
Any other further discussion? Good, let's move on. Let's
We need to
approve
vote.
it.
We need to approve it.
I know, let's approve it.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Look, that one's lonely down there, the town hall kitchen remodel. Can we just talk about that one?
It's this one right here.
Uh.
It's original to the building and it's falling apart.
And it's falling apart.
The cabinet is separating from the wall. I looked this morning.
I looked at,
like,
I don't think
horrified.
we need a lot of discussion.
No,
Let's-
I didn't
okay.
wanna
Yeah.
go
I
there. I'm
move,
like,
I move that. We move that we approve the kitchen remodel. For the select board to be discussed at. Town meeting for $25,000.
Second,
any further
I
discussion?
just, like, does it get used? Is it, or is it not used?
Yeah.
No, it's the only,
Every
it's
day,
where
all
everybody
day.
gets their, source
They
their
use it all.
food and their coffee and
It's right there.
you can open the
Just-
doors right
yeah,
here.
It's not safe. Peeing in those windows.
Yeah.
All of it, yeah.
Don't touch
Yeah.
it.
You don't wanna go in there.
Like their original cabinets and like you can see right here, they're coming off.
Okay, hold on, we duct tape in the crack.
Yeah.
Don't touch
Alright.
anything.
Where's the
Everybody
duct
holds their
tape?
breath when they get there.
They
So,
do, they use it a lot.
Yeah. So,
So I have just
Now
just
we
like
fix it.
to make a point for the record that such things that we've just been discussing as the fire bay. Floor drainage, the window replacement, kitchen remodel are all expenses. We have various different types of expenses, but 10,000 here, 25,000 there. Because the building is beyond its
Right.
sale date, can I put it that way? And the
When was it
town
built?
has I'm sorry,
When was it built?
1982.
1982, so it's a,
It is not.
This side, 71 on that side.
right, so. The select board has in the past, attempted to propose spending money on building a new town hall DPS facility, but that has not been approved by the town. So we will continue to spend money until and unless a new building for DPS and town hall
you have a place
is
to put
approved
it.
and in place.
You have a place to put it.
No, not yet.
All right.
Place can be found if it's approved.
Okay,
Well, yeah.
all right. I shouldn't have made that. That was a wise ass comment and I apologize.
It was just a comment for the record.
We have a motion on the
That's why
floor.
we're
Does
spending.
everyone-
Motion on the floor.
Any further
Uh,
discussion?
uh,
Let's vote on that. All in
Aye.
favor?
In favor,
Aye.
So two other
Thank you,
recreation
Rich.
related items, that we didn't cover while Brooke was here. The storage shed, that's on Packard's Field is 10+ years old now. We've re-roofed it one.
Yeah,
It is in very poor shape.
yeah.
That's what the $10,000 is. And the dock repairs, the town owns the dock at the gazebo at Town Square.
Falling apart.
And it is falling apart, and the 25,000 would not be a complete replacement. But it would repair the base, which is the part that's really bad right now. And some of the decking.
Yeah.
It is made out of Trex, so it does have a long lifespan, but the base of it is rotting out. And
It's dangerous.
we need to fix that. We are going for the foreseeable future to remain over by the boat shed with the boat concession. But the dock still gets a lot of public use. So, we do need to upkeep it. Any questions?
What's underneath there?
Underneath is a bunch of pressure treated 2x4s and 4x4s.
No, I mean, like, if we just rip that thing out,
It's just dirt.
I like it there, yeah, I like
It's
it,
just-
but if we put grass in and just, what's the,
It's up there.
I think the businesses in Town Square would have an issue. I wanna get their commentary.
just one?
Yeah, I mean, it's used.
I've
Every
spent the
day.
money to fix it, but
Sure.
It would just sort of be
It
removed.
would
There's
be-
not anything underneath it. You
There's
can do.
nothing-
that's what I mean,
no
so it's gonna look
foundation.
like the rest of that side.
Yes, it's a drop off.
Grass
Yeah,
and
it
drop
would drop
off,
off
people can
from
sit
the-
there.
It would drop off from the
People sit in the
gazebo. You
People
would
sit
not
on
be
the
able
dock.
to
I
use
see it.
I
the
see it.
lower, you would not be able to use the under storage at the gazebo. Unless you built a little.
Yeah,
deck
it
for that.
doesn't make sense. Yeah, it needs to be.
So.
As this is a benefit to businesses, is there any need to request their financial assistance? I think I know what the answer is going to be, because we've gone down this path before.
Sure, we can always ask.
I think that may come up at the select board meeting perhaps.
I think there'd be a safety issue there as well with, if you took it out. You'd have to put up some kind of a bench or
Railing.
something, railing or something.
Yeah, it's steep.
Steep,
Well, the rest of the pond doesn't have one though, John, like,
it's not as steep though.
It's a safety issue now, we don't fix it.
Right, what I'm saying is, if you took it out, there would be another safety issues.
Like more hockey players that try to sled on it.
Throw pumpkins into the water.
It is town land, it's what,
It's
how many feet, 5,
10.
10 feet wide there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes around the pond, it's only about 10 feet.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
So go ahead.
I propose that the planning board approve the storage shed and the dock repairs as an item to forward to the select board for presentation at the 2024 town meeting.
I second that motion.
Alicia, you got that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All in favor on that?
Aye.
Aye, okay, good.
Cascade Ridge Booster Station roof,
We-
this is the small
We
building.
do the $100,000 of municipal facilities at this time, as long as we're in that area.
I'm sorry, Mike, which one?
The municipal facilities cash reserve, as long as we're in that area, should we approve that? As long as we're in that.
Yeah, go ahead, make the motion.
Sure.
I move, we move forward the $100,000 cash reserve request,
Capital Reserve Fund.
capital reserve fund request to the select board for consideration at town meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion on that?
No.
All in favor?
Aye. Should we also do the same thing down below, and I don't think we did, for the major equipment? Cash reserve fund request for $100,000 to be moved forward to, we recommend moving forward to the select board for discussion at town meeting. I don't think we did that.
I think we did either.
No, that's our third
Right.
capital reserve fund.
Right.
Okay.
Second,
Any further discussion?
Just the. 100,000 doesn't seem like enough, I think we with Amy on that. Is the logic that we need to start somewhere and might be more palatable for the residents to accept and get started on a reserve fund? Or, like that we'll likely get that approved if we put it forward to the voters. But at the same time, if I'm sitting there, I'm thinking that's just it's not gonna cover anything, and it's gonna take us years to build up any money to be actually used for a new fire truck or whatever else. What was the logic behind 100,000?
Step in the right direction.
Step in the right direction,
yeah,
yeah. I
Gotta
think,
start somewhere.
yeah, we can't, it's not a switch,
But voters
Yeah,
and taxpayers
even
haven't
that's
heard
more
this
than-
before.
been done in the past.
I think too, if you look at the amounts, if you add the three together, it's 300,000. So I think people may look at it that
more in
way.
aggregate.
And,
I think so.
and I agree with you that it doesn't seem to be but a drop in the bucket for some of the expenses we have. Although it is a step in a direction that the town, may want to go in. At 300,000, a current valuation, $500,000 home. Assessed at 500,000, we add $300 to the annual tax bill. So I think that's how people are gonna
That's
look
how I
at
say
it.
yeah.
Cause this will be on the tax rate, right? This is strictly raising taxes to put aside, raising money through taxes to put aside for a future use.
And Rick, at 100,000 for major equipment, that's a cruiser. So
Just about.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it might seem like a small number, but it can make a big impact.
This may spark a larger discussion on philosophy of
Right. That's
of funding, whereas the previous philosophy was to bond because interest rates were so low. And that there was the idea too, that you'd be, by bonding it, people using that, whatever that is, right? Whether it was a fire engine or whatever, were the ones paying for it. Where in this case, for putting $100,000 away for some project, people paying that tax now would not necessarily see the benefit of that. Although if you start somewhere, then you get in paying it forward. So there are a lot of cross-cutting arguments in all of this that'll be discussed at the select board.
Yeah. Well, I
You
appreciate,
know where the silent button?
you're giving me with all of the questions I have today. This is my first time through this process.
Welcome to the club.
Yes.
It's gonna be your last time. Good.
When I joined
Good.
like 5 years ago, I didn't ask enough questions, so I think
We can blame John.
I
He
think
told me
you're
to ask.
going the right way.
Right, no, it's
No.
great, it's great to ask.
Amy, I value your questions, so go ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know this is necessarily the right venue. My concern is interest rate risk, and my fear is that what decision before has been, well, interest rates are low. But we can't make a decision today based upon what we think the rates are today. We have to assume that the rates might be really high 10 years from now when we're gonna make the expenditure, and therefore, by saving, we have a choice when it comes time to acquire the asset. If rates are low, great, borrow the money. Then we can discuss what happens to that capital reserve. But if we don't save the money, we have no choice, and if rates are high, we have our hands tied behind the back. And I think this is an excellent step in the right direction. And I'm glad it'll open up discussion, because that's what I've been wanting.
And
Motion has been made.
we have a motion on the floor. Is that correct?
Yes. Let's take a vote.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Alyssa, again, you got that one, okay, that motion?
Yep, thank you.
We've not had any discussion about the public works vehicle.
Yeah, let's go there next.
And Margaret has her hand up.
Okay. Margaret, I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah, I think Rich, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I think Rich described what the philosophy difference is here. But just to put a point on things, all of us in town are going to be faced with a significant tax increase based on building the much needed wastewater treatment plant. Many of us in town are of the age that, well, perhaps we won't be here 10 years from now when some of this money that's being taxed now is used. So it's going to be an interesting discussion at town meeting as to which way folks really want to go. And I understand absolutely Amy's point. If we had been doing this all along, we would definitely be in better shape. But I think that is something that has to be dealt with at town meeting.
Right, good point. Yep. Amy, one last thing. Go ahead.
Thank you. I agree that it belongs in town meeting. I'm just glad that it's coming up. I agree it's at the wrong time because we've just had to pay all that money for the wastewater treatment facility. I think we just need to do this very slowly. You know, and move in the right direction. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Public
Amy,
Works,
could I ask a question of Amy?
sure.
Before we do that? Where, that report that you said you put together, where can you find that?
It was at the town meeting, so it's in YouTube. It's in YouTube. If you
Oh,
look-
okay.
If you fast forward to the
6 hours.
5
Okay.
hours.
5 hours.
Yeah, I think
No, 5 hours.
I think I wasn't there
And if you
anymore.
send me a note, I can send it to you.
Okay,
I'm happy to
It's
discuss it.
it's also in the.
thank you.
The
Amy,
town
I still think
report.
it's fair for us to make a decision that's
Okay.
gonna impact taxpayers in the future because we're so.
Amy, before
Okay.
you go,
This was,
would you touch base with the CIP committee at some point? Would you people be okay with that?
yeah, I'd be more than fine.
All right, why don't you send her an email and invite her and talk a little bit?
I'm happy to.
Thank you and goodbye. Okay. Okay, Public Works.
Public Works, 2 vehicles and dumpster replacement.
Yep,
Plow truck. Fire trucks, ambulances, school children, nobody does anything without plow trucks.
right.
Around here for 6 months out of the year. So, what are your questions?
I have no questions. I move we,
And the skid steer,
Let's do
steer
them all
is
together.
already ordered. We're making the first payment on a 3-year lease. This will be in 24. The funding will be the second of 3 years.
So the select board used 2023 funding to make the first down payment. We need it for the new transfer station.
Yeah,
That's why we had to purchase it.
We don't have one now, correct?
we do not. It's a new vehicle.
Okay.
And. So,
Okay,
So.
Rick, go ahead.
Just quick, so the 70,000 for the dump truck, is that
that is,
a purchase price or?
that is the
No,
first
that's the
of
first.
3 years lease.
Okay.
We only wish we could buy a dump truck with 70,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so
It's over 200 now with all of the.
Yeah.
equipment.
Wow.
Sure.
So do we typically lease? So like going back to the admin
Typically-
vehicle conversation, we lease.
Typically, leasing is the way we go with most of our vehicles. The thought process since 2005-ish has been if something were to change, all of these leases have non-appropriation clauses. And so if something happened and suddenly the town did not want a particular vehicle, they simply vote it down at town meeting and we give the vehicle back.
But we, after the lease
But
expires,
at the end of the lease, there's a $1.
Right, it's a
buyout.
lease, it's a
There's
lease,
no-
it's a lease to
there's
buy,
no balloon payment.
right, it's a lease to buy. It's really a disguised bond.
And well, it's a different than bonding because when we bond something. we
No, I
can't give
understand,
it back.
but it's a bit,
So-
right,
It is completely different in the sense that. this
except you
gives the
can buy
town
it, except that you
options.
can buy it for $1.
And the dumpster is because
Price.
Well,
they're
we
rotting
have-
out.
We have
And it's priced at
77, we have 77, 78 dumpsters now. We have not ever had a capital item to replace. We've always taken it out of the operating budget. We've only been replacing 2 or 3 a year. We need to get on a program where we're replacing 10 to 15 a year. The dumpsters have a definite expiration date. They rot out, they rust, and we do repair them and put new steel on them to try to make them last. But generally, we're getting about 6 to 7 years out of
Just not
them,
bad.
so
Wow.
we need to get into a regular program.
Yeah.
This will be a recurring item every year.
Right.
And we really could use double this amount, but it's not financially responsible to request that.
And they cost between 2,800 and 3,300 each,
Yes.
so.
Wow.
I have a question,
Mhm.
since what you just said. Does it make sense, and I hate to do this, especially since Amy just
Then
left.
don't.
No, it is an important question since I always pay attention to everything Mark says. No, I do. And what you said is that what you really need here
Well,
is not one, but multiple.
well, let me qualify this. I also do not want to replace too many at once because you're gonna keep getting bumps.
Right.
So if we get into a regular program where we're doing 10 a year, we are going to catch up to the point where having 10 new ones come into the inventory each year is gonna work, right? You're gonna reach a point where every 5 or 6 years, you're rolling the entire.
Correct, I understand that.
And so,
But isn't that what we should be really beginning,
well, I
more
think,
than one?
I think the other reason why we didn't want to have this big bump is to create too many new ones on the ground at the same time, because they'll all expire at the same time.
It's like having a
So-
baby boomer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, I don't want to,
Good
this is
enough.
not the 1950s, all right?
So basically that what you are saying is that this is truly sufficient to do this, more of them would not make sense.
In talking to the maintenance folks, yes, we can limp along until we have caught up. Yes, we will have some that are in, rough shape, but we can make it work. It's gonna definitely be better than the 2 or 3 that we've been replacing each year. right? We're gonna triple that number, so that's awesome. That is a very good start.
We have a good welder on staff.
We have a good welder on staff and, you know, we keep them, but we have dumpsters, but the bottom's fine. So we need to get this started.
Okay, as long as it is
It's
not,
all right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've let it go so long that a large amount of money would be, you know, a larger amount would be better, but again, it's kind of a balancing act of. I don't wanna get into the same situation in 7 years.
I understand, my concern is this, all right? If this is a pay me now or pay me later, and we know that that is coming.
Yeah.
And that we are, I hear the words you're saying, and I hear words like limp along,
Mhm.
bottoms falling out.
Yep.
Why are you looking at me in that
You're
tone of voice?
talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. And things like that, and as a a caring town resident. Words like that. Do not warm the cockles of my heart.
Well.
How's that?
This 20,000 goes a long way to fixing those comments. And I think this is a good start. If we need to ask for 30,000 next year, we'll do that. This is.
Okay.
This is what we're
a good
proposing,
start.
right?
I'm
No, I
you understand what I'm saying? I don't want us to shortchange that which they need for $10,000 or $15,000.
If we do this and we run into an emergency and we have to buy one, we can do it.
Okay, you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I mean, this is also a possibility if the town would like to move towards a capital reserve fund.
Sure.
This is the sort of thing where you have a defined object that you need to constantly fund year after year after year. That you set up a reserve fund
Should we be?
to handle those costs over
Should we be?
time.
That's excellent.
Should we be?
Well,
Wanted to.
remember that the other variable here is how we collect our trash. And what changes are coming down the pipe
Mhm.
for that. So right now, we know for certain that we are good until December 31st of 2016.
26.
26.
I've been here a long time. So,
You mean here now or here in town?
So, 2026, so that's the
The
other thing.
system will be
we need to
In
take-
place till then.
Yeah.
Minimum.
So
Okay.
let's make some motions here, but can we make a motion on all of these items
Yeah.
or
Yes.
once?
Yep, well, together.
Mr. Chairman,
Try it out.
all right. I propose, or at least I move, that the planning board approve under the title Public Works a 1-ton plow truck, a skid steer and dumpster replacements for forwarding to the select board with regard to the 2024 town meeting.
Seconded.
Morgan, second that. Any further discussion?
Yeah, why don't we take, instead of doing each line item, if we do that, we're gonna be
No,
here.
you only got one more.
Okay, so I did it for the whole group.
Yeah,
Did we
you
do
did it for the whole team.
For public works major equipment.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't hear that, sorry,
All three together.
I guess I stopped listening.
You can't.
Well, all three, but I mean, there's everything else in that category.
Well, that's what we discussed, the truck, the skid steer and. the
Everything
dumpster
else underneath
replacement.
it is done.
Therefore,
Yeah, everything under that's done.
Yeah, the only thing left is public works.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the
Get the
details,
whole
sorry.
done, here you go.
okay,
Okay.
there's a motion on the floor.
Motion on the floor. Any more discussion? No, let's go ahead and vote on this.
Alright.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Based upon what was said, should we be? I hate to do this. Should we be requesting a $25,000 cash reserve fund in this area?
We have 100,000.
You have 100,000
Approved.
for equipment. That would cover this.
That could cover this.
Major
You
equipment.
could go there.
Yep,
Okay,
You could have a separate one, but
I,
you've just voted to
okay,
present it
and
this way to the select
we're
board.
gonna have enough problems with those cats.
That's right. We got 3 of them and when they, but let's see what the voters have to say.
Okay,
Public Works. That's at the top. Let's take a look at that one. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, all right.
There's a total of 4 left up there. And 1 in the back.
This is the additional storage, the
Break room.
break room remodel, tire changing replacement. Equipment.
Yeah, I'll just comment on the break room from the discussion we had. You know, because especially like, you know, during plowing. You know, and whatnot, it's almost as important that not just as a place to like, you know, grab their lunch or whatever. But they're having a real problem with, they don't have a warm place to go when they come in off the roads and stuff, and that's what, to me, it seemed high
Sometimes
priority.
they do need a place for sleep.
I mean, they,
Have a-
yeah, and they have to
They
sleep
go back out
sometimes
on the
there
next-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, Bill. Yeah, and these are the people who, you know, take care of us, so.
Yep, good point. Any further discussion on this one?
Margaret has a question.
Margaret, go ahead.
Hey there, I just want to point out there are 2 bedrooms up in the firehouse.
They're already being used by our per diem staff for public safety.
But if they were not occupied, they could be used by, the Public Works folks, right?
They could be, yep.
Hmm.
They're-
Okay, thanks.
From the same building.
Yeah. And sometimes the break room needs to be closer to the vehicles.
And it's a multi-purpose.
Yeah,
So we put the tire changing and balancing equipment as low priority in hope that we would be able to have a calculation about the cost of doing it.
Yeah, I don't have.
So I ran some brief, like, quick numbers, and I think we're looking at right now about 1,500, 1,200 to 1,500 a year in tire rotations that we have to
Right.
do for snow tires on the cruisers, any other tire repairs that we have, but that's a ballpark 1,200 to 1,500 annually to get the tires on and off vehicles.
What does the equipment cost?
What do we have down there?
10,000.
20.
20.
20.
It says 20.
20,000.
so we don't
But
have
also
that
the
equipment.
time, like I've got 2 cruisers that are getting tires changed and it's over 2 days. That we have to go to Plymouth and back and forth.
And we do have
2 people out of town just to get 1 car. To get tires changed.
and we have staff qualified to do it.
We do,
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
a mechanic.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
But you factor in labor cost or
right,
A lot more. than
employee
40.
time.
yes,
So
so,
put that in.
so I move that. The,
You'd like to make a motion, Mike?
Oh, I-
Right.
creation of additional storage, DPW, where were you gonna do that?
Above.
There's
About-
Where we keep the garbage truck all the way in the back,
Yeah,
where the garbage truck does not extend to,
yeah,
there is a void because the ceiling is so tall. And there's a big void up above where they could put some steel
Oh.
I-beams.
really storage up above.
The
Okay.
mezzanine.
Correct.
Then I move that the creation of additional storage in the GPW garage. The break room remodeling and the tire change / battery equipment. All be moved to. High end. And be moved forward to the select board for consideration at town meeting
2024.
2024.
second,
Rob, you second that?
yes.
A quick question, just, it's a process question of what difference does it make whether we move it forward as a high, medium or low? Is it just because it goes to the you know?
It
when the
doesn't.
selectmen see it? Yeah.
It's just there.
The high,
Well-
medium, low is just.
Their view.
Right.
That's
Okay.
because
Yeah, I think
Those are
so.
committee's recommendations.
the 3 of us discussed
Okay.
what was we thought was
We
timing.
think
So
so.
just to make this meeting a little easier.
Right, right.
So it has
There was a
no
lot left
significance.
on.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The pass.
So 2 more things. right?
Okay, and Alicia, you good with the motion? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, two more things.
Cascade Ridge Booster Station. This is the small building at the intersection of Cascade Ridge Road and Dean Bender Road.
Yeah,
It provides a pump to get the water up to the houses on Bean Bender.
Yeah.
Because they are actually at higher elevation than our reservoir, which means they don't get the water pressure that they need. So this is a booster station to get them water.
Yeah.
And
including the new building.
it needs a roof. The roof that's on it is original and it was built in 2005 when Cascade Ridge Road was on it.
So I move that we.
Go ahead.
Move forward the Cascade Ridge Booster Station roof. That's to repair or replace?
Replace.
To replace, and we move that forward to the select board for consideration at town meeting.
I second.
Any further discussion? I'm missing a member.
We have to. You, what?
I'm missing a member.
But we don't need
have enough to vote.
He
We've
Rob
got
already
six.
seconded it.
So we don't need them.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last thing is $60,000, 25,000 for the creation of a capital reserve fund. For property revaluation, which Steve said, it's every 5 years. And then $35,000 in 2024. Because we are currently out of the ratio. We need to do a statistical update in 2024.
What does that mean?
We must maintain property values in our assessment records between 90 and 110%,
Okay,
and we're currently outside.
Yeah, it means higher taxes are coming. Yes. Truth in,
Higher, the budget means higher taxes.
yeah, but,
This is how the pie is divvied up.
right, which will
We
result
want
in
to
higher.
make sure that everybody's-
didn't we just have a revaluation?
Yes, we did.
We did because we were very out.
And we finished the reval in 2022.
2022
And
was
the-
$70,000, Mike, so I figured if we started a reserve, contributing 25,000 a year in 4 or 5 years, we'll have enough.
No, I understand that part. I was,
So
that I
at
understand.
the end of that reval, the goal was to be at 100%.
Yeah,
We're at 91% at the end of 2022, and we're in the 70s, low 80s.
really?
Yeah, because of all the.
Because sales are continuing to go. So,
Price increases.
so that's where the 35,000 is necessary for 2020.
It's a state mandate. We will have to
No,
do
no,
this
no, I
typical
understand that.
revaluation.
I'm
So-
surprised.
So $60,000 for property reval.
Yeah.
That would be a motion.
I move. Let us move that the planning board approves the revaluation budget of 25,000,
The
correct?
CRF request.
Beg pardon? The
Capital
reserve
Fund
request
request
of
for
25,000
and a statistical.
and to be 25,000 annually as a proposal to submit to the planning, to the select board in consideration of the 2024 town meeting.
Add the statistical update
For 35,000.
Beg pardon?
And
It's-
35,000.
and 35,000 for
Oh,
next year's
excuse me, and
statistical update
$35,000 as a statistical
for
update
next year.
to be carried out next year.
Seconded.
Morgan, second, unless you okay with the motion?
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done. I think that
I
was
think we're
it.
concluded, are we not?
Can I ask you a question before we move something in my time? I will get that.
Hey,
We're not adjourned yet.
yeah, let's send the,
See if anyone has anything else.
yeah, is there anything else to discuss? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Seconded.
Okay, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Right on the